welcome back yet again. Every time that I think I'm going to reduce this down to 4 or 5 episodes, it just gets longer and longer and longer because there's just so much information, and I just love this part of this world so much, and Tom just has so much experience. It's just one moment after another. So that last episode originally was going to be more about polishing. It ended up being more about kind of business skill set, talking with the customer, being honest with the customer, that kind of stuff. So what I want to do now is really kind of force Tom into submission here. Let's talk about converting these sanding marks down to gloss, depth, shine, the stuff that we really want, that end result that we're really looking for. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom's, because he did start talking about you know, that knife edge there, and I'll just keep that in. Okay, Tom, in that last video you did talk about going up, and what we illustrated quickly was the fact that at 2000 grit you were able to produce some shine with just a little bit of residue on that pad.
Yeah, we didn't even put no new product on.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do this. One thing about using a rotary is, you know, keep your shoulders loose, don't tighten up, and don't fight the buffer. Do not fight the buffer. If you're fighting the buffer, you're going to cause a problem on the car.
Now, I know what that means, but for a guy that's never had a rotary, because in my world, we're all afraid of the rotary, because none of us, they're just not training people how to use the rotary, because they're not really training people. I would call that, would then segue into business and making a profit and turning a profit, because they're just, I don't care what compound or polish you're using, you're never going to be as quick with a rotary as you are with any other dual action, random, or even forced rotation. You're just not going to be as quick.
You're going to be quicker with a rotary, right?
Yes.
Yeah, quicker with a rotary than a, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that you will never be as quick with those
DA.
other buffers as you will with the rotary.
No.
But for us detailers, they're not teaching rotary skills because the dual action is just so much easier. The learning curve really is. So when you say if you're fighting the rotary, I know what that means, because I know what it, at the beginning, I know what it meant to fight that rotary and to try to control it and try to submit it. It's
so fun, and we don't see a lot of women in this trade. There are some, and especially buffing, I see some.
Yeah.
And it's a great trade for women to get into. This is a great trade for women to get in. Don't be afraid, just dive into it. But when you show a woman, a young girl, how to buff, and I'm going to show you, always put the product on the pad. I know that's hard. You're going to get less sling, less mess, all that stuff. So, and there's no reason.
You know why it's
also
also hard? Because virtually everywhere in the world, they're putting that polish or compound straight on the paint, and then they've got this cool little technique where they try to reduce the sling, but
crazy.
Yeah.
So you put it on the, work it into the pad. That's important. Now it's worked into the pad. It's gelled. It's inside the pad. Now, keep your shoulders nice and loose. About a 50% overlap. You can see how fast that fresh product is really buffing that surface. You're going to go over it like 2-3 times, but my shoulders are really loose. I'm moving my hands around so that the pad isn't fighting me. And when a girl is doing this, she's not fighting it. She doesn't want to win over the buffer. A guy, he's going to try to win. And you know what? The buffer always wins.
Eventually
it will throw you right on the ground.
So in order to not fight the pad, though, you've got to basically, not basically, I don't even want to use that word, is you have to have that, because that's spinning in one direction, unlike a dual action. So when you say fighting the pad, you've got to be holding that, and this is really...
Yeah, it's you really got to stay loose with it, but you know the cool thing? There's no splatter. There's no mess.
Yeah.
That's one single product. It never dries. It stays wet. And the cleanup is a piece of cake, you know? And we don't have any, you know, missed areas here, because we were working that 50%, you know? We were working that overlap.
Now, when you say overlap, let's clarify that. So we've got this section here. So when you say overlap, let's say you need to go down to this section, but you're going to only drop down 50% each way.
That way you make sure that you always get it covered. What I hate to see is guys,
it's like, they're all over the board.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? One, the product's drying out. Now you go back over and it turns into powder and it goes all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, keep it wet. It doesn't make a mess.
Which is interesting.
Right in
One of probably the only pushback that I've really gotten with CSI from people is like, oh, it dusts too much. It's like, because I'm looking at what you just did and I'm thinking, okay, where's the dust?
No,
you know, I mean, there's dust over the hood. I mean, you're always going to get some dust.
Well, that's flying off the edge of the pad.
Yeah.
Now, and I tell the guys, I said, there's two ways to make product. I could have made it the way 3M made it and keep it nice and greasy. I could have done that. I absolutely. I'm in the lab.
Define greasy, like, because when we hear the word grease, because I got to remember, they're the same. Yeah, this
doesn't have any residue on it. If I miss something,
okay, but just to clarify, because I have to remember, I have an audience that literally has never done any of this. So when you say grease, you don't literally mean grease. They're not formulating.
The oil. It is what the industry calls filler. You know, and you and I talked about this.
Yes.
Do formulators put something called filler in the product? No, there's no such thing as filler. Oh, I'm going to pour filler in my product because I want it to fill up all. No, it's because the emulsion was bad. So now what comes to the top is the oil that was never emulsified in the water.
Okay, so to clarify emulsion, and your simple default is think of mayonnaise.
Yep, or toothpaste.
Toothpaste?
What if I squeezed the toothpaste and it was separated into all the different components?
Yeah.
That'd be nasty.
Yeah.
Put that in your mouth.
How many people would want to use that?
No, nobody will.
So mayonnaise, let's just pretend.
Perfect emulsion. Because oil and egg.
For example, like peanut butter. Okay, if you just have 100% peanut butter, which is literally just peanuts that have been blended, organic, the only thing they may add is salt. Okay, but it separates. So you leave it, and the directions literally say, okay, in order to prevent separation, once you've mixed it up, you have to put it in the refrigerator so that I'm guessing that cold air allows it to
kind of hook it all together.
Yeah. So when you have peanut butter, that separates. The oil rises to the top, and all the peanut whatever rises to the bottom. So that would not be a good emulsion.
Well, the oil would be the filler. Yeah. That would be the filler that would be left all over everything.
So there's not some secret ingredients, is what you're saying. Is like, oh yeah, let's add these fillers to it, and it'll cover up the swirl marks.
Yeah.
So it's just what you're saying is that it's just a poor emulsion process that they have not put the time, money, equipment, whatever is required to create a real tight. And that's where you talk about a nano emulsified product.
Yeah, so when you look at CSI, I mean, it's really, really tight. The only reason why we shake it is because the aluminum oxide particles could settle, and I don't want to be buffing with, product that isn't, consistent all the way through. I'm not shaking it because I've got separation in there. But you look at how nice and tight that is. There's no oil falling out of it. It's just nice and tight.
Yeah.
It's called thixotropic. So now it's
it's weird. I noticed that it's not really sagging like I would think it would, because it's almost, that panel's not perfectly vertical, but that's a pretty vertical panel, and I noticed it's not dripping down. And
and it's real dry, because of the water that's in it. There's, again, no fillers. It's all emulsified. Everything is blended together in a very, very special process that we invented for this product.
Well, let's just clarify. You mean you invented?
There were a lot of people that helped. I definitely am not smart enough. I'm a body guy. This is what I do. But I got involved with a lot of really, really smart people who helped. Darren being one of those people. Darren getting involved in this business gets it out to you guys, an audience that I never would have gotten to, and it's been so much fun. So, you know, this is fun. This is really, the whole thing is fun. Buffing on this car and being involved in business with Darren, this is a blast. This is really, really fun.
I know. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Which Sam is the same way. Which once again goes to that mentality. If you don't find this fun, then no one's going to convince you it's fun. You know, it either is or it isn't.
And it's hard.
It's
hard work.
It's hard, stinking work,
hard,
but it's still just fun.
It's fun.
It is fun.
It is. It's a blast.
So we've got, which you just basically broke your own rules, which you're not educating that this is the process. You're just trying to talk about the emulsion, the tightness of it, the nano emulsified water based.
To pick that up, you know, you just put it into the pad, you know, because now you rotate it into the pad. But you can see we get a little bit of splatter.
Yeah, because that was overly. That was way too much polish for what you needed for that area.
But that's why I tell people, why are you putting it on the surface? You can't control your splatter when you do that. Put it on the pad. You can control a little bit better. And by leaving it open like this, I'm wasting product. Because now I've got all this product all over the surface that's drying out.
Yeah.
So now if it's a hot day, it's not hot today, but if it's a hot day, it's just not efficient. It's, you know, you train efficiency from painting to this, to that, to even buffing. You know, everything is about efficiency in the body shop.
Yeah, which is different. You know, if you're a home hobbyist and you've got a whole weekend to burn and kill and you've got nothing better to do and you're trying to escape the wifey in the house or whatever, you know, that's a whole different world. That's a whole different conversation. But when you're trying to do something that you enjoy but make money doing it, turn a profit, that's where efficiency, it is important.
It is. It really is. And it's no fun if you're not making money.
Yeah,
I mean,
really
that takes the fun out of it. That really takes the fun out of it.
You do enough jobs where you walk away and you realize, wow, I did not make any money. It's really disheartening.
As a kid, I restored my own cars. As, you know, I put the body shop together, and I bought cars. I had really cool cars. But it's like, why would I want to work on my own car when I can take that labor and make money from it? I mean, right now I'm going to make money from it.
Yeah.
I don't want to restore my own cars no more, so that would go out the window.
Yeah. So here we've got some shine. You've just created, you know, it's, I've toyed with the settings on this camera. And I'm looking at and it just does not do it the justice to my eyes anyways.
In here, you mean?
Yeah.
In the LCD screen?
Yeah. It's just in real life.
But I bet you when it goes to the video, your videos look great.
Yeah,
That's
hopefully.
a nice camera.
No, it is. It's just, you know, here in person, it's just like, oh my gosh, you know.
Yeah, it'd be nicer if it had a 4K LCD screen.
Yeah, that might be a big part of it.
Maybe like an iPhone. Stick an iPhone on the side of that.
Yeah. So here you removed, like, okay, so at this point, how do you check your work? Like, what's going to happen now?
I'm looking into the light. So we basically buffed this 2 times. And I'm looking into the light.
I mean, we did a whole lot of talking. As far as your polish time, that was just
seconds.
So trivial.
Yeah. And it looks good. It looks done. I'm ready to go on to foam here. That's all I need to do. There's no getting that any better. It's done.
Okay.
So,
okay, what about busting out an LED, checking for, you already know there's going to be some swirl marks anyways because you got a wool pad.
Yeah, we've got a wool pad mark on here now. Sam does have, you know, Sam's got
because I know there's going to be people out there like, oh yeah, you're not using an LED to check for swirl marks.
There's LED. A snap-on LED.
Right on.
You know,
hooray,
Snap-on. Hey, Snap-on, come to our rescue.
Hey, Snap-on, send us that check in the mail because we just sponsored your product.
That's right.
How about that?
And that's about as close as I can get.
I'm trying to,
And there's no swirl marks.
Now,
it is
granted,
a light color.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's not a black paint, but
it looks pretty good.
Looks really, really cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Sam.
Of course, there's going to be someone out there that says, "Oh, but there must be fillers in there still." I don't care what that guy said. There's got to be fillers of some kind in there to be covering up the swirl marks.
Here's unpolished.
Yep.
And
polished.
polished. So we've got this, you know, all buffed out with the wool pad. It looks really good. We've looked at it from all angles. We've looked at it with the light. You know, it looks fine.
Time to move on.
Blue wool pad. Now we're going to the only other pad we sell to this market, the red foam pad. So this is 100 PPI foam. Everything fits, you know, plastic
100
ring.
has to do, just to, you know, to clarify, 100 PPI. That has to do with the density of the pad itself.
Yep. And it's a measurement that people really assume. Nobody takes a gauge and measures it. So you mix this foam as a two-part, and you know with this formula, you have the pores that would equal 100 PPI, or what people accept as 100 PPI foam. 3M has their blue pad, which they say is their finest
would that
foam.
be 100 pores per inch?
Yeah,
Do you
I
know
guess
that's what
that
it
is
converts
what
to?
the measurement, but whether somebody looked at that and pulled 100
Measured it,
pores,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how
Kind
they
of like sandpaper, you know, if you held it under a microscope, you could probably say like, oh, you know, they're a little bit off, but
yeah,
point
it's not
is,
exactly 600
yeah,
grit.
yeah.
Okay.
It's 559 grit. Yeah. Oops. Whoops. We're off by one.
So just
Point is that's 100 PPI.
yeah, 100 PPI foam, super fine.
Yeah, it's very soft.
So you put it on.
Like pinch that, because not all foam's created. Yeah. I just want to show them that this is that's pretty darn soft.
Yeah, it's really
So
soft.
that's our finished foam pad.
Our finished foam pad. Product on the pad, a little bit in the middle. And you can see how the gloss really starts to come up as you tighten up the scratch pattern. Same exact product we used to cut with, now we're finishing with. Cutting and finishing with one single product.
And once again, I'm not seeing a bunch of dust coming off that pad, you know, and it's just, so in many ways, I'm just going to call out user error, you know.
Putting it on the pad works so much better. It keeps it all, there's water in our product. The water goes in the pad and it keeps everything in the pad. It's really important.
And in defense of those people, though, is that there is so many moving parts. You know, we're working in the shade. It's pretty cool. You know, I'm actually frozen myself. You know, it's 58 degrees and I'm freezing. I know, I'm a big pussy, but whatever. You just come feel my toes and my fingers and you'll realize that they're starting to grow icicles on them. Point is there's so many working conditions. There's so many variables: humidity, temperature. You know, how much product did you actually use? Did you oversaturate your pad? Did you put it to the pad? So there's a lot of moving parts that guys can, you know, go off the grid on. So you're clarifying for the guys, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And once again, whether you might be a chick out there that's doing this, so, you know, not to discriminate.
Yeah.
So give equal time to both the guys and the girls that are out there behind the buffer. So yeah, I'm just not seeing a bunch of dust flying off that pad.
Nope, nice and clean.
But you could make it happen, you know, if you were to let that dry enough and then take a brush to that pad, you could create a big dust storm.
Yeah, you could.
So at this point, you've just then converted the scratch pattern, the wool marks, and now you've converted it to an even tighter scratch pattern. And people might be confused by that, because when we think of scratches, most people are going to think of scratches they can visibly see. Clearly, we cannot see any scratches on that paint.
No, and this is so much better than it was with the wool.
Yeah, it is. But if we held a microscope up to it, we would in fact see that there are scratches, and that's where I
just
call
like
it
when I
is,
run my hand on there.
Yeah.
Now I just scratched the car.
Yeah.
I just scratched it. That's my hand, microscopically.
You're in trouble. You are in big trouble, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell the customer on you. So, but what I call it is you are scratching your way to success, or you're scratching your way to perfection by
4K,
introducing
8K.
introducing finer and finer scratches to the point where the unaided eye cannot see anything but absolute perfection and gloss. But if you get the right microscope on it, suddenly it reveals a whole different world. But that's not the real world, where no one's going to come up to your car with a microscope and scrutinize and say, oh, nope, I see the scratches. You got to get back in here and fix it. That ain't the real world.
Yeah.
So, but this is the real world. So you just converted any wool scratches introduced by the wool pad, swirl marks, holograms. Now you've removed them. Now, what would you do at this point? Anything?
No, we're done. I mean, this car is still in assembly process. So this car, before it gets waxed, it's fully assembled. And then, you know, after it's fully assembled, then everybody's done touching it. Then we put the last coat of wax on the car.
Okay. So at this point, would you, let's pretend, okay, let's start here with the obvious, which is it is what it is, meaning it's a blue metallic car. Do you need to touch it with a dual action polisher at this point?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
But
it's not going to make it any better.
Let's say it was black. You're fine.
I probably would. Yeah, I probably would. I'd probably hit it with a dual action just to make sure if it was black. Yeah. But on this car, it's going to look stunning.
But if you had the skill set, which I know you do, but you could, even if it was black, you could finish it with just that rotary and you'd be fine. You would just accept that you would need to finesse it a little bit more, a little bit tighter if it was black, because black is going to reveal different things than a lighter colored car like this will.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Anything else that we want to address? How about if you, is there anything that would be worthy or noteworthy in this moment of, because you talked about your nano emulsified technology that goes into your formulation, but what about waterborne technology? Is there anything that you could address in this moment that makes waterborne technology unique in this application?
Well, you know, I guess everybody is claiming to be waterborne because of the VOC rules and regulations that are present in our industry. So we're all using some form of water structure when we build a product like this. The things that I see with our product that are far different than the other products is the way that they're addressing the solvent side. We have solvent in our product, but we address it inside the water, where they are addressing it on the outside of the water structure. So you smell it with their product. You smell the product. To me, that's important.
What does that mean to a lay person like myself? When you say on the inside versus the outside, I'm thinking like, okay, what does that mean in my world? Like, what would that mean in my world? Now, the solvent smell, I like the fact that I can smell nothing when I smell the Ceram-X. I mean, literally, I smell nothing.
No, it's
no
pure water.
No nasty solvent smell. It's not getting on your clothes, that kind of stuff. But is there something else, like the fact of being able to polish in direct sunlight? Does that have to do with the water technology itself, or is that more of the emulsion? Like, what would that?
Well, the thing that's different on ours, and you know, when I'm talking to formulators, is the order that these products are built with. If you build, you know, you want to smell solvent, well, you're going to build that order of addition so that that solvent is in a different position when you're putting these products together.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have the solvent on the outside of the emulsion. What that means to me technically is if I lay that product on the surface and leave it in the sun, and we've all seen this happen, maybe the guys who we're talking to don't know why this is happening, but if you smell solvent, your product, your car is going to see the solvent too.
Yeah.
It's going to affect the paint.
I've seen it.
That's all.
What I call swell paint, swelling the paint.
It'll swell up. That's what it does to your skin.
Yeah, you wipe that off, and suddenly you look at that paint, and you're like, wow, why is that paint raised in that little area that that polish or compound was sitting? Because it has swollen the paint.
That's right. And CSI, you know,
so CSI will not do that because of the formulation.
It's far better than, I mean, you can actually buff with this product in direct sun. Again, put the product on the surface.
I know. I've
of the
got a
pad.
video where we're working on Sean's car, and we measure it with a heat gun.
Oh, wow.
161 degree paint.
Wow.
That's what the paint's
Oh, nice.
sitting in the direct sunlight.
That's
This was
awesome.
about
Yeah.
3 months ago when we actually shot that, and it
Yeah.
was a nice sunny day here in SoCal.
Yep.
161 degrees directly onto the surface, polished it, and I'm asking Sean, like, okay, Sean, pretend you're the customer. I just hit that with one pass with a dual action. I said, would that be acceptable results? He said, it would actually be better than acceptable. Like if I was the customer, I'd be like, wow, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Direct sunlight, and we took a measurement, and after we did polish that little section, and I took a new reading, it was 182 degrees, if I recall. So it did heat up the paint, but it was still a non-issue.
Yeah.
Worked perfectly in the sunlight.
We did all our testing on a black car on a 100-degree day, and I'm sure it wasn't 100 degrees when you were doing that.
No, it
was
wasn't.
Okay,
No.
so on a 100-degree day, that's as in Palm Springs, 100-degree day on a black car, just not buffing on it or anything, that surface is 180 degrees.
I believe it,
without
yeah.
doing anything.
Yeah.
It's hard to touch. Hard to touch that
180,
surface.
yeah, if people have any, and in that video, I think I apply context that at 161 degrees, when you put your hand on it, you instantly know it's hot.
Yeah.
But it's almost like that heat that builds up in your hand. There's like a delayed reaction. So at some point, after about a second and a half, you start realizing, okay, I'm gonna have to pull my hand away pretty quickly. And about another half a second later, like, okay, now it's too hot.
Yeah.
And then for about the next half second to a second, it's almost like your hand continues to heat up.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that is hot. So at 160 degrees, I think I can keep my hand there about 2 seconds tops before you realize, okay, I got to pull out.
Yeah.
And then it continues to burn. So 180 degrees, that
hot.
really is hot.
And we can buff in that kind of heat with CSI right in the sun. And that is because of the way it's made. We don't tell anybody to do that, but if you're in the boat industry and you know
I
we
know,
make
I've been doing it for about 15 years.
because sometimes you have to, right?
FY.
You
Well,
just have to.
I always had to.
Yeah,
I know people
you
can
just
say
gotta
like,
get it
oh,
done."
Darren, why don't you just, put up a canopy?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with a canopy. And even with you got a canopy because of the direction of the sunlight, half of the car is still in the sun. And so now you're trying to tilt the canopy in one side. I mean, it's just a pain in the butt.
And the reason why we built these products the way we did was for the marine line, because when you're doing the major, when they dry dock a 200-foot yacht,
I was just going to say.
one group of guys are in the sun, period.
You're not going to canopy a 200-foot, motor yacht.
Yeah.
Ain't
No.
going to happen.
You're not. You are buffing in the sun. And our products work great in the sun. That's what they're made for.
And
The
you
rip
do have a
cut,
whole
marine
separate
polish.
marine line.
Yeah, separate marine line. Yeah, it works great for that. So
Okay.
it's nice to do it into this market too, but it's really was built for that market, So,
As far as the direct
the
technology.
technology. Yeah,
yes.
that technology, we took that from the marine line and brought it over here because it just works so much better.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So any last words of advice as far as using your product in this moment? So hypothetically, if it was black and you don't have, decades of experience under your belt, you probably would want to switch to a dual action at this point.
Hit it with a DA just to make sure. I mean, this is part of the guarantee. As long as you're doing our process, our SOP, standard operating procedure, you're going to get these results every single time. Even if this is black, just like you're saying, Dan, just use the DA, to finish.
Yeah.
Just to make sure
Right.
that it's absolutely perfect. You're still using one single product, but finish it with the DA and it's perfect every
Okay.
single time.
Cool. All right, we'll stop there. And once again, I don't know what I never know what's going to show up once it's gone through editing process as far as the resolution and what have you. I just know here in person, I just want to wet myself because this gloss and shine is just, and this is the satisfaction you get. This is why you're willing to endure the labor intensive work that is involved with doing this. But when you see the end results, it's like, oh my gosh, you get, you know, you get physically aroused. Sorry guys, but I just do. Okay, we will cut it there.